This is the Vive Focus 3. It is HTC's newest foray into the standalone VR marketplace, but with a hefty price tag and its preference towards the business marketplace. Is this still a compelling buy for consumers? More notably, how does it hold up against its nearest competitor, the Meta Quest 2? Well, stick around as we do a deep dive and a full review on the HTC Vive Focus 3. Before we do get into this full review though, it is worth noting that staggering price difference between these headsets. The Vive Focus 3, for instance, comes in at £1,060 before tax, whereas the Meta Quest 2 comes in at just £300 after tax. There are two main reasons for this. The first one being HTC are pushing this as a business headset, and with that you get extended warranties and software and hardware changes to make it better for businesses to actually build and use these headsets. Also, did you know that Meta actually sell the Quest at a loss? Much like Sony and Microsoft do with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, these hardware pieces are sold at a loss to the company, and they're hoping that they can make most of their sales back through digital sales on the Oculus store. So it is worth keeping both of those in mind. Oculus do have a business, or did have, a business-oriented headset, and this was very much the same as the standalone Quest 2, but didn't require a Facebook login, and that sold for around £800. So for now, we're going to keep in mind that the business Oculus headset was $800, whereas this one comes in at $1,060. Let's have a quick look at what we get in the box though. Straight away, this is some awesome packaging, and I love its premium feel. Inside of that box, you do of course get the headset. Taking it out, the first thing I really noticed is just how light this thing is. Seriously, I was blown away, but there was a reason for that, because just under that headset is actually a battery box with the battery inside. It is a curved, removable battery that makes it really easy to quickly hot swap in and out batteries without having to stop a play session. With the battery inserted, it is actually still 30 grams lighter than the Meta Quest 2 with its premium band, though it is still weighing in on the heavier side at around 785 grams. Beside the headset, you do also get the two new controllers that look almost identical to that of Meta's offerings, with the inverted tracking rings. Though I must say they are significantly lighter, and the longer grip makes them more uncomfortable to hold and almost feel like a toy. And of course you do get all of the paperwork and the wires, including a USB-C splitter to allow you to charge both of those controllers at the same time, which is pretty nice. I must say, from a design perspective, HTC have absolutely knocked this one out of the park. It looks like a futuristic pair of ski goggles, and I am totally here for it. Its matte black finish and glossy black front feels premium without feeling too tacky. It's also one of the most functional designed headsets I've ever used. Touring the headset, starting from the front, we obviously get that 4-camera array for tracking, which we're very familiar with when it comes to standalone VR. Along the bottom we have that physical IPD adjustment, which really enables you to get the best viewing angles possible. This is actually something that is lacking on many other headsets on the market. The Quest 2 does allow you to change your IPD, but you have to physically snap the lenses and you get one of 3 positions. And for human beings, we're all ever so slightly different, making it very hard to get the best viewing angle out of something like the Quest 2. So having a physical IPD adjustment that allows you to go tiny increments really does help to get the best viewing angles out of this headset. We also get volumes and headphone jacks here too, but the placement is slightly odd to me. I would have preferred to have seen the headphone jack on the left hand side. Under a tiny little magnetic faceplate here on the front as well, we get a USB-C port. I'm not entirely sure what this port is for. I suspect it's for future expansion from HTC, for maybe some kind of face tracker, but who knows. It's nice to see the expansion port there for future preferences. We also have a singular button for enabling and disabling pass-through, and a USB-C port to allow for playing PC VR games. You actually can't charge the headset through this USB-C port because of that standalone battery. That's why you've got that power brick in the box to allow you to charge that battery. On the hard plastic band, we actually have some speakers, and these are some of the best sounding speakers I've ever used on a standalone VR headset, bar the CV1 from Oculus, because they were sitting on my ear. These ones are completely open back, but give a absolutely astonishing spatial 360-degree sound like I've never heard before. Coming all the way around to the back, we see the adjustment ring, and this is to allow the adjustment of the band onto the head. It cups the back of my head nicely, giving me enough support that it doesn't feel like it's crushing my head, while still feeling secure enough that I'm not going to lose it if I vigorously shake my head. Both front and back cushions on this headset are immensely comfortable, and one of the best things about them is they are super easy to snap out, wash, clean or replace. Pulling out that back one actually allows you to get to the battery holder, so you can just slap your battery in and slap that back piece back on. Same with the front, and actually that reveals a little hidden secret. Pulling off that front one, on the left hand side you see a micro SD card port. This is of course for expansion outside of the 128GB of internal storage you get, but also it allows businesses to easily manage and configure headsets without having to go through the normal setup guide, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. While we're here, let's talk about visuals. Each eye has a resolution of 2448 by 2448, while the Quest comes in at just 1836 by 1920 per eye. Using both of these devices, it truly does feel like night and day. The most impressive bit to me though is under the hood, these are the same chipsets, the Snapdragon XR2. But HTC have quite a vicious fan curve and active cooling system, which allows it to get just that little bit more performance out of the headset, and it really does show. Alongside the higher resolution, it also supports 90Hz. This isn't as good as the Quest 2, which supports up to 120 in certain games and scenarios, but I find 90Hz to be enough for the majority of VR content. The FOV is of 120 degrees, which is just insane. When it comes to the Meta Quest, for example, you only get 86 degrees. Of course, all of these specs on paper mean nothing if the lenses are no good. And much like every other HTC headset, the lenses are Fresnel lenses and they are fine for the most part, but have a very, very specific sweet spot. If you don't get that headset sitting just right on your head, you are not going to have a great experience with these lenses. It's going to look blurry and you're going to get a lot of halo effecting around text, particularly with white text on a darker background. Of course, once you have it seated properly, the visuals are just incredible, and it's something that I've never quite experienced before on this level, especially with that high fidelity. However, that halo effect can be pretty distracting at times. Of course, after a while, you do sort of just stop noticing it, but it shouldn't be there, especially at this price point. Let's talk about those controllers really quickly, because to me, that is where the Focus 3 really does fall down. These controllers do not feel ergonomic at all. The Quest 2s are just long enough to be able to sit in my palm and not dig in at all, whereas these ones are much longer and actually are pretty uncomfortable to use. And as I noted before, they are so light, they genuinely do feel like a toy. I'm not impressed with these controllers at all. The layout is completely fine because it's starting to become much more standard across all of these VR headsets that the controllers look and feel very similar. This is a great thing for developers because you don't have to develop for different styles of controller. Also, the triggers are really, really clicky, so you can just push down ever so slightly, but when you get to the bottom you have to actively click down. This is a weird sensation and I really don't particularly like it here. With many kinds of interactions like grabbing or clicking on an icon, I don't want to have to put an enormous amount of force to click down that button. But before we continue this review though, if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then 1, lucky you, and 2, go down there, hit the subscribe button, smash that bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload. We are getting so close to 2,000 subscribers now, and I've got to thank each and every one of you for all of your help and support getting me here. So if you aren't subscribed and you haven't liked or commented on this video yet, then please do so, it helps me out an absolute ton. Setup was a little bit of a painful process to me. You have to do this on an iOS or Android app. I used the iOS app and found it to just not be a particularly great experience. I found it would continually disconnect from my headset. Updates would fail, and even if the update did complete, I would have to forget and reconnect to the headset in order for it to actually progress with the setup. This was not a great experience, and once I used my Android phone I found it a little bit better, but it still is not great. Of course, this is a business headset, so you can use MDMs or multi-device management systems for both Android and for HTC to allow you to manage these headsets a lot easier. But from a commercial standpoint, for me and other VR gamers, you aren't going to be using this, so setup really should have been streamlined a little more. Once that setup is complete, you are dropped into the Vive Home environment. Currently there is only one environment here, and it is a sandy desert with a nice little house in it. This is actually a great place to show off those lenses and its high fidelity. It genuinely does look gorgeous. You'll also notice that fan kick up here. This thing is loud. The fan curves are very, very aggressive on this headset, and that allows it to keep one, cool, and two, that higher performance that is required to push those higher resolution displays. I found it was so loud that it actually became a little distracting after a while. Alongside that, I also found cold air being blown onto my eyeballs, which is less than ideal and actually pretty distracting. I do wish that there was a way to try and customise these fan curves, even if we dialed back the clock on that chip a little bit, allowing me to have a less noisy and blustery experience in virtual reality. Let's talk about the Viveport App Store and games. This is where its business orientation really does shine through. There are a few games for this headset, but they are few and far between. Most of the apps are subscription services to different learning platforms or digital meeting platforms. What I found the most infuriating about this though is there is the store on the headset. You can look through the apps and you can decide what apps you want to use. Once you go and click on that and click the buy button in the top corner, it just sends you to a web address that you have to go to on a PC. You then have to buy it and assign it to a headset. Go back into the headset, go into your library, not installed, and install it that way. This is incredibly unintuitive. Even from a business standpoint, this is unintuitive. I don't like the way that I have to take the headset off in order to buy any of the content, even if it's free. I can't buy it on the iOS or Android app either. Just a way to be able to manage content on this device would be a lot nicer than its current implementation, because it's just infuriating. Tracking solutions with both the controllers and hand tracking are some of the best I've ever used. They are absolutely rock solid. I can throw these controllers behind me, bring them back into view, and they will almost instantly pick up. Even compared to the Quest 2, the tracking is more stable here than it is there, and that is something quite impressive. So if we don't have a ton of native games, what would you actually use this headset for in a consumer base? Well, that is for PC VR. Much like the Quest does with its Oculus Link feature, the Focus 3 has a business streaming platform. And what this allows you to do is stream from a PC VR unit all the way to this headset through both Wi-Fi and a wired connection with that USB-C cable. This opens up a whole new world of experiences through SteamVR, and this is where the headset really did shine for me. And I can see it being a viable option for many just because of those higher resolution displays. When you're thinking about PC VR headsets, you are paying a premium. For example, the Valve Index is much more expensive than something like the Quest 2. The Valve Index comes in at just around £1,000 or just over, so actually it's about the same price as the Focus 3. But with that Focus 3, you're getting slightly better optics, and you don't have to use base stations. This is still completely standalone inside-out tracking. The experience is absolutely flawless. Obviously, if you want to do it over wireless, you will need a really strong connection here, but the device does support Wi-Fi 6, so if your router does support it as well, you will get a solid connection and you will absolutely love the experience of playing PC VR games on this headset. Overall then, would I recommend the Focus 3? And my answer is, if you've got money burning a hole in your pocket and you want a standalone VR experience that is going to be unlike any other, then I say go for it. But just keep in mind that you do have some of those weird business quirks, for example, not being able to buy certain apps and having a very limited standalone app base or game base. If you're happy to pay the premium for some of the best PC VR experiences on the market, this may well be the headset for you, particularly if you don't like the idea of throwing base stations all around your space. Anyway guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of the Vive Focus 3. Do you think this is a brilliant headset, or do you think that maybe it's just not quite the right market? Of course, my name's been Robert, this has been Review Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.